The Devourers arrived like a plague of living darkness that consumed light itself as it moved through the outer regions of the solar system. Hundreds of entities, each the size of Earth's moon, emerged from hyperspace near Pluto's orbit with hunger that had been building for millions of years. They were beings of pure entropy, existing as voids in reality that drained the life force from everything they encountered. Ancient beyond measure, they had consumed entire civilizations across the galaxy and left behind only empty worlds circling dead stars. Jake Martinez felt their presence like ice in his enhanced consciousness as he coordinated humanity's defense from his command center on Luna Base. The modifications he had received during the Wanderer's journey allowed him to perceive the true scope of the threat approaching Earth. These were not creatures that could be fought with conventional weapons or normal military tactics. They existed partially outside the dimensions where human science operated, making them nearly invulnerable to anything Earth's forces had previously developed. The first battle began at the edge of the solar system, where enhanced human defenders had established their outermost defensive line. Ships that were part technology and part living organism engaged entities that violated the fundamental laws of physics. The weapons humanity used had been designed using principles learned from civilizations that had fought similar battles across millions of years, devices that could strike at beings existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Lisa Brown analyzed the combat data from her position deep within Earth's quantum research facility, her expanded consciousness processing information from thousands of sources at once. The Devourers were more powerful than even the most pessimistic projections had suggested, but they were also revealing weaknesses that could be exploited. Their hunger made them predictable, and their ancient nature meant they had difficulty adapting to new forms of resistance. The enhanced human pilots who flew against the cosmic predators were no longer entirely human in the conventional sense, but they retained the stubborn determination that had always characterized their species. They could survive in the vacuum of space without protection, think at speeds that allowed them to react to threats moving at significant fractions of light, speed, and perceive dimensions of reality that their ancestors could never have imagined. Most importantly, they refused to surrender even when facing odds that would have terrified beings with more sense. Tony Garcia's consciousness had spread throughout the entire human defense network, making him simultaneously present in every ship and weapon system fighting the Devourers. His merger with quantum processors allowed him to coordinate attacks across vast distances while adapting to changing battlefield conditions faster than any conventional command structure could have managed. The human fleet moved with unity that confused the ancient predators, who had never encountered prey that could think and act as a single organism while maintaining individual initiative. Amy Johnson maintained communication between all enhanced humans in the solar system, her mind serving as a living network that connected defenders from Mercury to the outer planets. She could relay tactical information, coordinate supply lines, and provide emotional support to warriors fighting battles that would have driven normal humans insane. The mental bonds between enhanced humans allowed them to share experiences and knowledge in real time, making every individual fighter part of a larger tactical intelligence. The battle raged across multiple dimensions as human forces used weapons that manipulated the fundamental structure of reality itself. Quantum torpedoes phased through normal space to strike at the Devourer's existence in parallel dimensions. Energy beams that existed as pure mathematics carved through entities that had no physical form in the conventional sense. Defense platforms built around Jupiter's moons fired projectiles that accelerated beyond light speed and struck their targets in the past, creating temporal paradoxes that damaged beings existing outside normal causality. The Devourers responded to human resistance with increasing fury, their ancient hunger driving them to consume everything in their path. Entire asteroid belts were drained of matter and energy as the cosmic predators fed on anything that contained even trace amounts of life force. The outer planets began showing signs of atmospheric decay as the entity's presence disrupted the fundamental forces that held matter together. But humanity's evolution during the crisis had been even more rapid than Jake had hoped. Volunteers continued undergoing enhancement procedures despite casualty rates that would have been unacceptable under normal circumstances. Each successful transformation created a defender capable of operating alien technologies and surviving in environments that would have been instantly lethal to unmodified humans. The enhanced population grew even as battles raged throughout the solar system. The turning point came when Jake realized that the Devourers' greatest strength was also their fundamental weakness. Their existence as beings of pure entropy meant they could not create or adapt, only consume and destroy. Humanity's rapid evolution had produced something the ancient predators had never encountered before. Prey that became more dangerous, the more pressure was applied to it. Jake made the ultimate sacrifice when the largest devourer entity approached Earth's orbital space, threatening to drain the homeworld itself of all life. He allowed his consciousness to merge completely with the quantum field generator that had powered the Wanderer's journey, creating a feedback loop that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The resulting explosion did not simply destroy the lead devourer, it sent shockwaves through the fundamental structure of reality that damaged every entity in the swarm. The death of their largest member sent the remaining devourers into confusion, their collective consciousness reeling from damage that existed on levels beyond physical destruction. They had never encountered resistance that could strike at their essential nature, and the loss of their primary entity left them unable to coordinate their attacks effectively. The ancient predators began to retreat, but humanity was no longer content to simply defend. Enhanced human forces pursued the fleeing devourers across multiple star systems, using pursuit capabilities that allowed them to track entities moving through dimensions parallel to normal space. The hunters had become the hunted, as beings that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years found themselves facing prey that had evolved beyond their ability to consume. The battles that followed established humanity as a force capable of protecting other species from cosmic predators. Lisa Brown led research teams that studied the remains of destroyed devourers, learning how to detect and combat similar entities that might threaten other regions of the galaxy. Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the massive halls of Nexus Prime Station with steady steps. The station served as the home of the Galactic Council and stretched across hundreds of miles in space. Beings from 12 different alien species moved around him, but none spoke to the human delegation. Dr. Lisa Grant walked beside Morrison while Captain Ryan Bell followed behind with 6 armed Marines. The council chambers opened before them like a vast cathedral. 12 different seats arranged in a perfect circle held the representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Each seat was designed for its occupant's unique biology. The hegemony representative counselor Zeth Kari sat in what looked like a metallic throne that pulsed with blue energy. His gray skin gleamed under the chamber lights, and his 4 arms gestured as he spoke to another counselor. Morrison had been Earth's representative for 3 years now. He had watched the Council grow more frustrated with humanity's rapid expansion across the galaxy. Humans had established colonies on 47 worlds in the last decade. Each colony operated independently and refused to follow galactic law. The Council saw this as dangerous rebellion, while humans saw it as freedom. Admiral Morrison, spoke Speaker Prime Kulthara from the center of the chamber. Her voice carried through translators that made her alien words sound almost human. You and your species stand accused of illegal expansion and violation of 17 galactic treaties. Morrison took his place at the human podium. The chamber had been designed to make single beings feel small and powerless. It worked on most species, but humans had always been stubborn about such things. What treaties? Morrison asked. We never signed any treaties with the Council. Zethkari's forearms slammed against his throne. Your species expands like a plague across the galaxy. You establish colonies without permission. You refuse to pay taxes to the galactic government. You ignore our laws and mock our authority. Dr. Grant stepped forward with a datapad in her hands. If I may speak, she said, humanity has established colonies only in unclaimed systems. We have not invaded anyone's territory or attacked peaceful worlds. Our expansion follows all established protocols for uninhabited space. Uninhabited by your limited understanding, hissed Counselor Vextani from the reptilian delegation. Those systems contained valuable resources that should have been managed by the Council for the benefit of all species. Morrison laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber and caused several counselors to shift uncomfortably in their seats. So you're upset because we found empty worlds and made them productive before you could claim them. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Speaker Prime. Kulthara's tentacles writhed with obvious anger. Your attitude demonstrates exactly why humanity requires supervision. You are reckless and aggressive. You think only of your own benefit. We think of survival, Morrison replied. Earth is overcrowded. Humanity needs room to grow, and we're taking it from empty space. If that threatens you, then maybe you should have expanded faster. Zethkari rose from his throne. His species stood over 8 feet tall, and their presence usually intimidated other beings. This arrogance ends now. The Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's future in this galaxy. Morrison crossed his arms and waited. Lisa Grant activated her recording device while Captain Bell's hand moved closer to his sidearm. The chamber fell silent as all 12 counselors stared at the human delegation. Humanity will immediately cease all expansion beyond your current 47 colony worlds, Kulthara announced. All existing colonies will submit to Council oversight and taxation. Earth will pay reparations of 50 billion galactic credits for unauthorized use of galactic resources. Human military forces will be reduced by 70% and placed under Council command. The silence stretched for several seconds. Morrison looked around the chamber at faces that ranged from smug satisfaction to nervous anticipation. Finally, he spoke. And if we refuse, then humanity will be declared a rogue species, Zethkari said with obvious pleasure. The Council will authorize military action to bring your worlds under proper control. Your species will learn to follow galactic law or face the consequences. Morrison nodded slowly. I see. So after 3 years of meetings and negotiations, you've decided to threaten us with war. We offer you guidance and proper integration into galactic society, Kulthara replied. Your species simply lacks the maturity to govern itself responsibly. Maturity, Morrison repeated. That's interesting coming from beings who think the solution to disagreement is threats and conquest. Vexitani's forked tongue flicked out in irritation. Your species talks too much, always arguing and debating and questioning authority. Perhaps if humans learned when to remain silent, you would cause fewer problems. Zethkari's forearms spread wide in a gesture of absolute authority. Yes, if humans cannot learn to speak reasonably, then perhaps you should not speak at all. We demand your species embrace silence until you can conduct yourselves properly in galactic society. The chamber fell quiet again. Every counselor watched Morrison's face for signs of submission or fear. Captain Bell tensed as he prepared for possible violence. Dr. Grant held her breath while her recorder captured every word. Morrison's expression didn't change. He looked around the chamber once more, then smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. You want silence. Complete silence until humanity demonstrates. Proper respect for galactic authority, Zethkari confirmed. Morrison's smile grew wider. You know what, Counselor? I think that's a wonderful idea. You want silence from humanity, and by God, you're going to get it. He turned away from the podium and walked toward the chamber exit. Dr. Grant and Captain Bell followed immediately while the Marines formed up around them. The counselors watched in confusion as the human delegation simply left without another word. Admiral Morrison, Kulthara called after them. Do you accept the Council's terms? Morrison paused at the chamber entrance and looked back. Oh, we accept your terms completely. You asked for silence, and silence is exactly what you'll get. Enjoy it. The humans disappeared through the exit, leaving the council chambers in stunned quiet. Several counselors began talking at once, but Zethkari raised all four arms for silence. They will comply, he said with satisfaction. Humans are natural talkers. Forcing them to remain silent will break their spirit within months. Vexitani's tail swished nervously. Did anyone else find the human admiral's reaction strange? He seemed almost pleased by our demands. Humans often use humor to mask fear, Kulthara replied. Admiral Morrison knows his species cannot survive a war against the entire Council. He will recommend compliance to Earth, and humanity will finally learn proper behavior. Speaker Prime. Kulthara dismissed the session with confidence that the human problem had been solved. The Council had finally found a way to control the most annoying species in the galaxy. They would soon discover that getting what you wish for can be the most dangerous thing of all. Outside the chamber, Admiral Morrison walked toward the human transport ship with steady steps. Captain Bell caught up to him in the corridor. Sir, what are your orders? Morrison continued walking without slowing down. Send a priority message to Earth Command. Operation Silent Treatment is now active. Tell them the Council wants quiet. Humans, and we're going to give them exactly what they asked for. Dr. Grant looked worried. Jake, what are you planning? Morrison's smile never faded. They want silence, Lisa. They're about to learn that quiet humans are much more dangerous than loud ones. 3 weeks after the Council session, Colonel Amy Brooks stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters. Screens showed data from every human colony and military outpost across the galaxy. Each screen displayed the same message in green letters, Operation Silent Treatment Active. Dr. Kevin Walsh entered the command center with a coffee cup in his hands and exhaustion on his face. He had been working 18-hour days to coordinate the communications blackout across all human space. The last civilian stations have gone quiet, he reported. Every human ship, trader colony, and outpost is now maintaining complete radio silence with all non-human entities. Brooks nodded while watching the data streams. What about mixed species stations where humans live alongside aliens? Those are the most interesting, Walsh replied with a tired smile. Human civilians are simply acting like the non-humans don't exist. They go about their daily business, but they don't acknowledge alien presence in any way. No talking, no eye contact, no interaction at all. On the main screen, a report from the frontier colony of Haven showed typical results. Alex Turner ran a supply depot that served both human and alien ships. Before Operation Silent Treatment, he had been friendly with Kelvari traders and even learned some of their language. Now he processed human orders normally, but when Kelvari ships landed, he acted as if empty ships had arrived. He refueled them, serviced their systems, and accepted payment, but never acknowledged that anyone was aboard. The psychological effect on the aliens was immediate and disturbing. Kelvari traders began reporting that humans had become ghost people, who moved and worked, but seemed unaware of alien existence. Some aliens tried shouting or making gestures to get human attention, but humans simply looked through them as if they were invisible. Brooks switched to another screen, showing shipping data from the major trade routes. How are the aliens reacting to the loss of human commerce? Walsh pulled up economic reports from across the galaxy. Badly. Humans represent about 30% of all galactic trade. Our merchant ships and colonies were involved in everything from raw materials to manufactured goods. Now that we've gone silent, the economic disruption is massive. The reports painted a clear picture. Human traders who had been negotiating deals simply stopped responding to alien communications. Contracts in progress were abandoned without explanation. Human ships that had been carrying alien cargo dumped it at the nearest station and departed without collecting payment or providing reasons. On the Nexus Prime commercial levels, alien merchants watched their businesses collapse. The Vrex Consortium had built their entire trading empire around human agricultural products. Now human ships arrived, delivered goods, and departed without any communication. The Vrex couldn't negotiate prices, confirm orders, or arrange new contracts. Their profits vanished almost overnight. Colonel Brooks studied reports from the frontier regions where human expansion continued despite the Council's demands. Our colony ships are still operating. Yes, but they're doing it completely differently now, Walsh explained. Before Operation Silent Treatment, our colonists would contact local authorities, request permission survey for possible conflicts, and negotiate agreements. Now they just arrive survey and establish colonies without saying a word to anyone. The new human colonies appeared like mushrooms after rain. Human ships would enter an unclaimed system, perform detailed surveys, and begin construction operations. If alien ships approached to investigate, the humans simply ignored them. No warnings were issued, no explanations given, no negotiations attempted. Several alien species tried to establish their own claims on systems where humans were working. They found that silent humans were far more efficient than talkative ones. Without the need for meetings, discussions, or diplomatic delays, human construction teams worked around the clock. By the time alien claim ships arrived, humans had already built landing strips, power plants, and basic infrastructure. Brooks switched to military reports from the border regions. Human patrol ships continued their regular routes, but their behavior had changed completely. Before the operation, human captains would hail alien vessels, issue warnings or demands, and negotiate solutions to conflicts. Now they simply observed and moved on. The aliens are getting nervous about our military silence, Brooks noted. Several species have filed complaints about our ships being unpredictable. Walsh laughed. They're used to humans who talk too much and telegraph their intentions. Now they're dealing with humans who don't communicate at all. They can't predict what we'll do because we're not telling them. Reports from across human space showed the same pattern. Human military commanders who had previously sent long detailed warnings to trespassing alien ships now acted without explanation. Alien vessels that entered human space without permission found themselves surrounded by human warships that offered no communication. The aliens could comply with obvious demands or face consequences, but humans provided no verbal guidance. The psychological impact spread beyond direct human contact. Alien species that had grown used to human chatter began to feel uneasy about the sudden silence. Humans had been the most talkative species in the galaxy, always ready to argue, debate, negotiate, or simply chat about anything. Their voices had filled communication channels, trading posts, and diplomatic meetings across known space. Now that constant human noise had vanished. Space seemed quieter and somehow more dangerous. Alien traders began reporting feelings of unease when they encountered human ships that moved with mechanical precision but offered no greeting or acknowledgement. The silence felt threatening in a way that human arguments never had. Alex Turner continued his work on Haven Colony, but his alien customers began avoiding his depot. The Kelvari trader, who had been his friend for 2 years, tried desperately to communicate, but Turner never responded. The trader finally left a message saying that dealing with silent humans felt like trading with ghosts. Other aliens echoed the sentiment. Humans had become something other than themselves. Dr. Walsh pulled up the latest intelligence reports from Nexus Prime Station. The Council is starting to realize they may have made a mistake. Several counselors are privately expressing concern about the economic impact. Colonel Brooks smiled grimly. How long before they try to contact us? Sooner than they expected, Walsh replied. Our silence is causing more disruption than they anticipated. The galaxy was used to predictable humans who announced their intentions, argued about everything, and negotiated constantly. Silent humans are an unknown quantity. The screens around them continued displaying the success of Operation Silent Treatment. Across human space, millions of people maintained their quiet discipline. Not a single human had broken the silence to communicate with non-human entities. The galaxy had asked for quiet, and humanity had delivered exactly what was requested. Brooks looked at the data stream showing human expansion continuing at an accelerated pace. Without the delays caused by diplomatic negotiations, human colonies were being established faster than ever before. Human efficiency had improved dramatically once they stopped wasting time on explanations and arguments. Colonel Walsh said quietly, "Do you think we'll ever talk to them again?" Brooks continued watching the screens. "That depends on whether they learn to listen when we do talk." Speaker Prime Kulthara entered the emergency council session with tentacles writhing in barely controlled anxiety. The chamber that had once felt like a symbol of galactic power now seemed smaller and less impressive. Reports from across the galaxy painted a picture that none of the council members had anticipated when they demanded human silence. Councillor Vextani slithered to his position while reviewing the latest intelligence data on his personal display. "The economic disruption continues to worsen," he reported. 17 major trading corporations have filed bankruptcy in the past month. The Nexus Commercial District has lost 40% of its business volume. Zethkari's 4 arms gestured angrily as he took his throne. The humans were supposed to become submissive, not more dangerous. Their silence has made them unpredictable, and that unpredictability is destroying galactic stability. The chamber filled with the 12 council members, while holographic displays showed the scope of humanity's silent expansion. In the 4 months since Operation Silent Treatment began, humans had established 31 new colonies and expanded their military presence across dozens of systems. All of this had been accomplished without a single word of communication to non-human entities. Counselor Mordun from the crystalline species projected images of human colonial operations. Observe their new methodology. Human colony ships arrive in unclaimed systems and begin construction immediately. No surveys are requested, no environmental impact studies are filed, no negotiations with nearby species occur. They simply build. The images showed human colonies rising with mechanical efficiency. Construction crews worked in perfect coordination while automated systems handled logistics and resource management. The colonies grew faster than any previous human settlements because no time was wasted on bureaucratic procedures or diplomatic consultations. More disturbing is their military behavior, added Counselor Ythara from the insectoid delegation. Human warships patrol their territory with new patterns that our analysts cannot predict. They respond to threats with immediate force but provide no warnings or explanations. Intelligence reports detailed several incidents where alien ships had encountered human patrols. In each case, the humans had acted swiftly and decisively without any attempt at communication. Ships that approached human colonies without permission found themselves surrounded by defensive forces that offered no dialogue. Compliance was expected, and non-compliance was met with overwhelming force. Speaker Prime Kulthara activated the chamber's main display system. Show them the new Denver incident. The holographic replay showed the Kelvari fleet's destruction in detail. Council members watched human forces coordinate their attack with machine-like precision while maintaining complete radio silence throughout the battle. The efficiency was impressive and deeply unsettling. The Kelvari survivors report that fighting humans is now like fighting ghosts. Kulthara continued. No battle chatter, no threats, no negotiations, just cold mechanical violence followed by immediate return to patrol status. Zethkari's primary arms slammed against his throne. This is not what we intended. We wanted to humble humanity, not transform them into something more dangerous than before. The council members reviewed additional reports of human behavior across the galaxy. On mixed species stations, humans continued their work and daily activities, but acted as if non-humans didn't exist. Alien residents described feeling invisible and unwelcome in their own communities. Some stations had seen complete alien evacuation as the psychological pressure became unbearable. Human traders still conducted business, but only through automated systems and written contracts. Face-to-face negotiations had vanished entirely. Aliens who attempted personal contact with human merchants found themselves ignored completely. Business continued, but the personal relationships that had made trade possible were gone forever. Psychological impact extends beyond direct contact, reported Vexitani. Species that had grown accustomed to human communication now feel anxious about the silence. Many aliens describe human space as feeling dead or haunted despite continued human activity. Counselor Mordun projected population data from border regions. Several species are relocating away from human territory. They report feeling uncomfortable near humans who no longer acknowledge their existence. The chamber fell silent as council members absorbed the implications. Humanity had represented 30% of galactic communication traffic before Operation Silent Treatment. Their constant chatter had filled trading posts, diplomatic meetings, and social gatherings across known space. The sudden absence of human voices had created a psychological void that affected every species. "We must contact them," declared Vextani. "This situation grows worse daily. The humans need to understand the damage their silence is causing." Kulthara activated the communication system. "Admiral Morrison still attends our sessions but refuses to speak. Perhaps direct contact will succeed where formal requests have failed." The chamber doors opened, and Admiral Jake Morrison entered with his usual steady stride. Dr. Lisa Grant and Captain Ryan Bell accompanied him, but the three humans moved like shadows. They took their positions at the human delegation area and waited in complete silence. Morrison's presence had become more unnerving than his absence. He sat perfectly still while observing the council proceedings but never spoke or reacted to anything said. His eyes tracked speakers, and his expression suggested complete awareness, but he might as well have been a recording for all the interaction he provided. "Admiral Morrison," Kulthara began formally, "the Council requests that you address the current situation between humanity and the rest of the galaxy." Morrison continued staring at the speaker prime without any change in expression. His silence stretched for long seconds, while every council member waited for some response. Finally, Morrison shifted his gaze to Zethkari and smiled slightly. The smile contained no warmth or humor. Zethkari's exoskeleton clicked nervously. "Admiral, we are willing to discuss modifications to our previous demands. The Council recognizes that perhaps our approach was too harsh." Still no response from Morrison. He looked around the chamber at each council member in turn, then returned, his attention to the central display. His complete lack of reaction made several councilors shift uncomfortably in their seats. "The economic disruption must end," Vexitani declared desperately. "Surely humanity can see that this silent treatment hurts everyone, including your own people." Morrison finally moved. He reached into his jacket and withdrew a small device which he placed on the podium in front of him. The device projected a holographic message in simple text that every council member could read. The message contained 3 lines. "You demanded silence, you received silence, enjoy it." Morrison retrieved his device and returned to his seat without speaking. The 3 humans sat in perfect stillness, while the council stared at them in growing horror. The silence that had once seemed like a victory now felt like a prison sentence. "Admiral, please." Kulthara tried once more. "We can negotiate a return to normal relations. The Council is prepared to make concessions." Morrison stood and walked toward the chamber exit with Dr. Grant and Captain Bell following. At the doorway, he paused and looked back at the assembled council members. His expression suggested someone observing insects in a laboratory experiment. Then the humans were gone, leaving the council in their demanded silence. Zethkari slumped in his throne with all 4 arms hanging limp. "What have we done? We wanted to control them, and instead we created something that doesn't need us at all." The council session continued, but accomplished nothing. Every proposal for contacting humanity met with the reality that humans simply ignored all non-human communication. The galaxy's most talkative species had become its most silent, and the change was permanent. Outside the chamber, Admiral Morrison walked toward the human transport with the same steady stride he had used for months. Captain Bell finally broke. his own silence with a whispered question. "Sir, how long do we maintain the operation?" Morrison continued walking, but answered quietly. "Until they learn that getting what you ask for isn't always what you want." The Kelvari war fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Denver system, with confidence that bordered on arrogance. Fleet Commander Thexval studied the tactical displays from his flagship bridge, while his subordinates reported on human defensive positions. New Denver was one of humanity's newer colonies with only 50,000 settlers and minimal industrial development. It should have been an easy target. "The humans have not responded to our arrival," reported his communications officer. "No challenges, no warnings, no demands to identify ourselves." Thexval's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. 3 months had passed since humanity had gone silent, and the Kelvari Syndicate had decided to test whether quiet humans were weaker than loud ones. New Denver would be their proof that human silence indicated submission rather than strength. "Begin the approach to the colony world," Thexval ordered. "Prepare to broadcast our territorial claim once we establish orbit." The Kelvari fleet consisted of 47 warships, including 12 heavy cruisers and a battle carrier loaded with fighters. Intelligence reports suggested that New Denver was defended by no more than 6 human patrol vessels. The humans had not reinforced the system since going silent, which the Kelvari interpreted as evidence of weakness or abandonment. As the fleet moved deeper into the system, Thexval noticed something odd on the sensors. "Communications officer, why are there no routine transmissions from the human colony? No shipping schedules, no civilian traffic control, no background chatter." "The humans maintain complete radio silence, sir. Even their civilian channels are dark." This struck Thexval as unusual but not threatening. Perhaps the humans were simply following orders from their distant government. The Kelvari had expected some resistance, or at least diplomatic protests, but the complete lack of response suggested the colony had been abandoned or left defenseless. The tactical officer suddenly straightened at his console. "Fleet Commander, I'm detecting human military vessels on the system perimeter." Thexval studied the updated display. 18 human warships had appeared on sensors arranged in a perfect defensive formation around New Denver. The ships included 2 heavy battleships, several destroyers, and a carrier group with fighter squadrons. "When did they arrive?" "Unknown, sir. They were not there an hour ago, but our sensors show no hyperspace signatures. It's as if they simply materialized. The human fleet hung in space like a collection of dark sculptures. No lights blinked on. Their hulls, no communication arrays swept for signals. No engines showed activity. They simply waited with the mechanical patience of predators watching prey approach." Thexval felt his first moment of unease, but pushed it aside. The human force was larger than expected, but still outnumbered. "Open a channel to the human commander. Inform them that the Kelvari Syndicate is claiming this system under salvage rights for abandoned territory." The communications officer worked at his console for several minutes, then looked up with confusion. "Sir, the humans are not responding to any communication attempts. All channels are being ignored. Try emergency frequencies. Threaten their colony. Surely they'll respond to protect their civilians." More attempts yielded the same result. The bull. Human ships maintained perfect formation without acknowledging the Kelvari presence in any way. They neither retreated nor advanced, but simply held position with mechanical precision. General Sam Foster stood on the bridge of the human battleship Defiant and watched the Kelvari fleet advance toward New Denver. His tactical displays showed every enemy ship in perfect detail, while his communication systems recorded their increasingly desperate attempts to establish contact. The humans maintained complete silence according to Operation Silent Treatment protocols. Commander Nicole. Hayes approached Foster with a tactical assessment. The Kelvari fleet will enter weapons range in 20 minutes. They're broadcasting territorial claims and demanding we withdraw. Foster nodded without speaking. Hand signals had replaced verbal commands on human ships during the silent operation. His crew moved with quiet efficiency while preparing for combat. No battle cries, no encouragement, no inspirational speeches. Just professional soldiers doing their jobs. Lieutenant Marcus Cole checked his fighter squadron status from the carrier bay. His pilots sat in their cockpits ready for launch, but no words passed between them. They communicated through hand signals and tactical displays while maintaining the discipline that had become humanity's new trademark. The Kelvari fleet continued approaching, while Thexavol grew increasingly frustrated with human silence. Are they challenging us or not? This silence is unnatural. Begin targeting their ships and see if that gets a response. Kelvari weapons systems powered up and locked onto human vessels. Target acquisition signals painted the human fleet, while Thexavol waited for some reaction. The humans maintained formation without any change in posture or activity level. Fire a warning shot across the lead battleship, Thexavol ordered. Show them we're serious. A Kelvari cruiser launched a plasma bolt that streaked past the Defiance. Bow. The human ship didn't flinch or alter course. No return fire came, no threats were issued, no diplomatic protests followed. The humans simply continued waiting. Thexvol's unease transformed into genuine worry. In 40 years of military service, he had never encountered an enemy that refused to communicate. Every species in the galaxy engaged in some form of pre-battle dialogue, whether threats, negotiations, or simple challenges. Human silence felt wrong in a way that made his exoskeleton itch. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human ships are changing formation." The human fleet had begun moving with fluid precision. Ships that had been arranged defensively now spread into an attack pattern while fighters launched from the carrier. Every movement was coordinated perfectly without any detectable communications between vessels. General Foster raised his hand on the Defiant bridge. The signal meant engage enemy forces. Every human ship received the order simultaneously through quantum entanglement communicators that alien sensors couldn't detect. The human fleet attacked as a single unified entity. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. Human forces struck with mechanical precision while maintaining complete radio silence throughout the engagement. No battle cries echoed across communication. Channels, no taunts were exchanged, no surrender demands were issued. The humans simply killed Kelvari ships with cold efficiency. Lieutenant Cole led his fighter squadron through the enemy formation while his pilots destroyed targets with methodical accuracy. They worked like parts of a machine, each pilot knowing exactly what others would do without needing verbal coordination. Commander Hayes coordinated the Defiance weapons systems, while the battleship's main guns systematically destroyed Kelvari cruisers. Her crew operated in perfect silence while explosions lit up the space around them. The only sounds were mechanical noises and the occasional impact of enemy fire. Thexvol watched his fleet being dismantled by an enemy that fought like ghosts. Human ships moved and struck without warning while maintaining formation discipline. That seemed impossible without constant communication. "They're fighting like they share a single mind," he reported to his surviving captains. The Kelvari commander tried repeatedly to establish contact with the human fleet. He offered surrender. Negotiations, prisoner exchanges, anything to get the humans to respond. The attacks continued without pause or mercy, until only 5 Kelvari ships remained functional. Retreat. Thexvol ordered. All remaining ships withdraw immediately. The surviving Kelvari vessels fled toward the system edge, while human fighters pursued them. The humans destroyed 2 more ships before allowing the remainder to escape. No pursuit continued beyond the system boundary, and no final messages were sent to the retreating enemy. General Foster watched the Kelvari fleet disappear into hyperspace while his own ships returned to defensive positions around New Denver. The battle had been won with 0 human casualties and minimal ammunition expenditure. More importantly, it had been won in complete silence. News of the New Denver battle spread throughout the galaxy within days. The Kelvari survivors reported facing an enemy that fought without speaking, threatened, or negotiated. Human forces had become something alien and terrifying in their mechanical efficiency. Other species began reconsidering their plans to test human defenses. The galaxy had grown used to humans who argued before fighting and explained their actions during combat. Silent humans offered no warnings, gave no chances for surrender, and provided no explanations for their actions. The age of predictable humanity was ending, and something far more dangerous was taking its place.